Hi, today we are talking about that headache you get right before you start your period. So, thanks for joining me, whatever platform you're on. And I just want you to know that I really appreciate y'all taking time to join live. And just so you know, if you ever have a topic, natural health related, whether it's hormonal or thyroid or blood sugar or anything like that, and you want me to do a live on that, just let me know. Send me a comment, send me an email, connect with me on social media, because most of these topics come from conversations that I have with people. And I just realized, hey, a lot of people have this question. And this topic is one of those. So I talk to a lot of women about hormonal issues. And one thing that seems to be a theme is that right around the time that they start cycling, they get a headache. And this is something that I've run into in practice clinically. I see this, but there's a little bit of a personal story here too, because one of the things that over the years I had dealt with is about 2 days before I would start cycling, I would get this really bad headache. And I would think, what in the world? Why am I getting this headache? And so once I unpacked all this stuff that we're going to talk about today on this video, I don't get that headache anymore. And so hopefully, if you're listening, hopefully this helps you. Share this with somebody who this might be an issue for. But let's talk about that a little bit. And so the first thing I want to say is that headaches can happen for a lot of reasons. Just make sure that whether it's this video or anything else I'm talking about, is that if you have a question about your individual healthcare, make sure you're having a conversation with someone, a trusted healthcare provider, whether it's me or somebody else or whatever, so that you are getting the medical care you need. These videos should never substitute for medical care. But is there some value? I think there's a lot of value in me talking about this, because quite frankly, a lot of doctors aren't solving these kinds of problems for their patients, and this is one that's probably falls into that category. So, okay, we are talking about that headache a couple days before your period. It's like clockwork, like, hey, I got that headache. I'm about to start. Why is that? So let's do a really quick recap of how a woman's cycle works, because this is something that nobody's telling you, you don't know, and this will help explain where that headache comes from. So, okay, the first thing is day one. Day one is the day you start bleeding with your cycle. And so if your period started on June 1st, then day one is June 1st. Most women's cycles will last somewhere between 25 and 31, 32 days. That's kind of a normal length of a cycle. We use 28 days as the magic, like our cycle's supposed to be 28 days. Not everybody's is 28 days, but it's around 28 days. And so you have kind of three phases of the cycle. You have the first half, you have ovulation, which is the time when you're releasing that egg and really when your fertility is at its height. And then you have the second half of your cycle. And what you need to know about this is the first half, relatively speaking, estrogen is the dominant hormone. You have more estrogen than you do progesterone. And then right around the time of ovulation, so sometime between day 11, 12, 14, 15, in that range, you get this surge of your estrogen and your progesterone both raise, and that's what allows you to ovulate and release that egg. And then in the second half of the cycle, you have more progesterone than you do estrogen, so your progesterone levels are a little bit higher than your estrogen levels. And what that does is the first half of the cycle, when you have more estrogen, you're kind of fluffing up that uterus, you're getting it ready, and then you ovulate, you release an egg, and every month your body is doing this little cheer, like, please, let's have a baby this month, and it gets ready, and we have this nice little uterine nest ready for this maybe baby that could happen. And then the second half of the cycle, it's progesterone's job to keep that in a good place, so that if we do have a baby that attaches, a little embryo that attaches, that we maintain a good environment for that. And that's healthy. That's what's supposed to happen. But here's where the headache comes in. So around, say your cycle is a 28-day cycle, that's a good average number. Say somewhere around day 26, 27, your hormone levels, your body goes, oh, not this month. We didn't conceive. So let's drop the hormone levels, which will allow us to get rid of that little nest that we created for this baby that never happened, and we can start all over and do it again. We shed off that old stuff, and we repeat the cycle. And so it's that drop in those hormones that happen that cause us to bleed. Now, if you've ever taken birth control pills, you'll know that you take pills for 21 days. Those are the active hormonal things, and then you stop for a week and you take something called sugar pills, placebo pills, whatever. They're usually a different color. They're the white ones. And that's when you bleed. It's the same thing with, naturally, this is what your body's doing, is you have more hormones, and then the hormones tail off and drop, and that's when you start that bleed, when your hormone levels come down. And so what can cause this headache is, number one, that rapid drop in hormones. It can change blood flow, it can change all these things, so that can cause a headache. So sometimes it's the fact that both of those hormones came down at the same time. And this is especially true if you're someone who has high levels of hormone, like you're in an estrogen dominant type of situation where you're struggling with some of those things like heavy bleeding, PMS, things like that. You have relatively high levels of estrogen, and I'm going to talk about, in a future video, I want to do a specific one on estrogen dominance, because I see that quite a bit. But if you're running higher levels of estrogen and then they come down, just that they can create vascular things like a headache symptoms. So just, the more estrogen dominant you are, that drop, you feel it creates more symptoms. So that can be one reason. The other thing is that as these are coming down, yes, your estrogen tails off, but your progesterone comes down faster. And relative to estrogen, now you have this gap. And so estrogen's coming down, but progesterone drops faster. And I find that to be one of the more common phenomenons with that, is to where this progesterone is dropping faster. And that's especially true as we talk about estrogen dominance, and most people, like, they're using beauty care products that have endocrine disruptors, and they're microwaving foods in plastic and using plastic water bottles and things like that drive up this estrogen. So it makes that estrogen feel higher. And we are going to be talking about that in upcoming weeks. I do want to talk about some of those things that mess up the hormones. But just know that progesterone, a lot of times, your progesterone is falling down a little bit faster than estrogen. So what you can and need to do is to gently bump up and support your body to come to the table with a little more progesterone. It would be, the way I would say that is, you're supporting your body to make adequate and the right amounts of progesterone. And so, of course, running some testing, whether you do it on the blood, the saliva, or my favorite, most comprehensive way to do that is look at Dutch testing. That will confirm all of this stuff. It will confirm, where's your estrogen, where's your progesterone, and you can look at all that. And I think that's definitely a good thing to do. That's when someone comes to me, and in addition to health history, that's what I'm doing, is running something like a Dutch test. But a lot of times what I'll find is that it's that progesterone, and your body just could use a little bit of help. And one of the things, the nutritional supports, it's something called chasteberry or chaste tree or vitex. There's three names for the same thing. It's chasteberry, chaste tree, or vitex, and they would come in a supplemental form. And what that does is it just comes alongside you and says, okay, progesterone is produced in the corpus luteum of the ovary, predominantly in the second half of the menstrual cycle, and I want to just come along and support that and make sure that we're producing good levels of that. So I have this, I don't know if you can see this here, it's called Progestade. And it has the main ingredient that I find to be really helpful in there is that chaste tree. And so this is this is the product that I use and recommend with people. And we'll put in the chat a way to connect with me on something called a full script dispensary. You just create an account. You can go and you can find this and you can get it for yourself. It's just one that it's a company that I know is testing their products to be as potent and pure as they say they are, because supplements are kind of there's a lot of them out there and the quality on them isn't all the same. But it's by the company's Apex Energetics, and so they do a really good job making sure that they have high quality products, and people tend to do really well with that. The way that you would take it is, I tell most people, start with taking one a day, and you just take one every day. You kind of might have to play with it. If you're really out of balance, you might need more than one a day. If so that's where the testing can come in. And when I work with people, we have a conversation and get the dosing. But start with one a day and see if it helps. I know when I started doing this, that headache that I was having, that I could predict my cycle with, it is gone. So I don't have it. I have a lot of patients that's their story too, is that they were like, why did I have this headache? And now I don't. And it's because we figured out what was going on, and we addressed it. And this is one of the things that I love, is that progestate. The times when that works really well are for women who still have their ovaries. Now, if you've had a hysterectomy and had your ovaries removed, don't rush right out and buy that product, because you don't have any ovaries to stimulate and make progesterone. So you have to do something different. But it works really good for people who still have their ovaries, and for those who haven't completely gone through menopause and stopped cycling. If your ovaries have pretty much retired and you're on the other side of menopause, again, you're going to have to do something a little different, because if your progesterone is really low, or your estrogen is off or something like that, the solution looks a little different on the other side of menopause, because you can't stimulate the ovaries to do their job, because they're just not doing it anymore. So anyway, it's a little harder, and the picture changes. But that is that's kind of the description of why you get that headache, what's contributing to it, and just something that I feel like is a good a really good product. If you have any questions, you can jump in and let me know. If you have listened to this or watched this after the fact and you make a comment, I will do my very best to respond to all those, and as soon as I can. If you think someone else would benefit from joining my Facebook Q&A group, or watching these, share this with them, because I really do. I speak to a lot of women, and they have a lot of questions about hormones, and they are out there searching, and sometimes they get good information, and sometimes I feel like they don't. So I am trying my very hardest to create an environment where good common sense natural healthcare root cause stuff is something we talk about on a weekly basis here. So thanks for joining me, and I look forward to our next session live.